All right, hello again, everyone. Back here to talk today about Wimbledon. After talking about the French Open here, decided I would pick things back up here now that we are ready for another Grand Slam. And really my favorite Grand Slam of the season and the biggest event on the tennis calendar. Really excited to get the fortnight going. And so going to do a draw preview here today, men's draw preview, and talk about who I think is going to win, who's going to have a good week or good 2 weeks, and kind of what I expect. So let's just, I guess, hop right into it. So starting at the very top of the draw, of course, with Roger Federer. He is the number one seed, despite skipping the clay season and just playing a couple tournaments the last couple weeks, back on top. And I'll just get it right out of the way. I think he will finish this week, these 2 weeks, on top, and claim his 9th Wimbledon title. I believe it's 9. I just think he's the solid pick here. Obviously, not as much of a lock as Nadal, but I really don't see anybody that I'm comfortable with picking ahead of Federer. We've seen how good he is here, and I think he's a really safe choice to win another one. Like I said, though, not as much of a lock as Nadal, and I think it'll be a much more interesting tournament with other guys that are real threats. But if we start with in Federer's section of the draw, I really don't see anyone that's too troubling for him. Definitely not in the first 3 rounds, and 4th round he's projected to face Coric. That could be his first real test. Coric actually beat him in Halle a couple weeks ago in the final there, which was a real surprise. Federer rarely loses any matches in these grass court tune-up events, but Coric got him, and really Coric has been a thorn in his side this year. I mean, he almost beat him in Indian Wells, should have won that match, really kind of blew it, and then beats him in Halle. So I don't know what it is about his game, but really seems to trouble Federer. I think best of 5, it's a bit of a different story. I think Federer, finds a way, but that's probably his first real test. But I'm interested to see what Coric can do. He's had a really nice season. He's up to 16th in the rankings now, or at least in the seedings for this tournament. But I do have Federer getting by him in that potential match. And then quarterfinals, it'll probably be either Anderson or Querrey, a serve bot, as we like to call them. But Federer never really has too much trouble with these players. I mean, you expect some tie breaks probably, but anything can happen in a tie break. But I'd like Federer to get by Anderson. That's who I have in that match. Anderson's been real solid this year. Some other guys in that section, like I said, Querrey, Gasquet, Kohlschreiber. So some good players, but I don't think anybody that's going to beat Roger. And so I think Roger will be relatively smooth sailing into these semifinals. And so that's the first quarter of the draw. Second quarter of the draw is Cilic's quarter. He's the 3 seed, and he's who I have getting through out of this section into the semifinals. He's had a real solid year, very consistent. Obviously made the finals here last year, and we know how good he is on grass. He just won Queens, so if there was one guy that was going to beat Federer, I probably would put my money on Cilic right now. He's, like I said, checking all the boxes. Does have a really intriguing potential 4th round match against Raonic. That's almost like a semifinal. I mean, those guys both are probably 2 of the top 5 grass court players in the world. The difference is Raonic is rarely healthy, which is unfortunate and is probably going to be part of his legacy. But I don't know what his health is going to be match to match, and if he's even going to make it this far in the tournament because of that. Not because of his game, because of his health. And so, yeah, I mean, it feels like he's pouring out of tournaments every month, which is it's a shame because he's a good talent, especially on this surface. But yeah, that's a tough match to pick. I mean, either of those guys could definitely win. like I said, I'll take Cilic just because of the you know the certainty of health. But that's a match that I hope we end up seeing because it could be very, very intriguing in the fourth round. But I do have Cilic getting through that, and then the bottom half of this section, I don't see anybody that I think will give Cilic a huge challenge. I actually have Isner getting out of this section, although Dimitrov is the highest seed. Dimitrov actually with one of the more intriguing, I guess you could say, first round matches against Wawrinka. I mean, normally that would be the case, maybe 2 years ago, but Stan has, like I said, not looked. I've said this in the past, has not looked good since his comeback. Doesn't seem to have much left. He's on his worst surface here, and I think he just got blown out by Murray. I don't know what tournament, but one of the warm-up tournaments. And Murray obviously hasn't played much tennis himself, so not really a good look there for Stan. I don't think he gives Dimitrov any trouble, although Dimitrov hasn't looked good himself this year. So, and actually, I don't have Dimitrov getting very far. I have him losing round 3. There's just no level of confidence for me with him. I know he just got destroyed by Djokovic at Queens, and it's not really a good performance by him at all. So, until he proves to me he can be more consistent, I mean, he's just not shown his form from 2017. I really think he's only played one good match this year, and that was the Kyrgios match in the Australian Open, where he was excellent in that match. But I haven't seen much from him to suggest he's going to make a deep run here. And yeah, like I said, I have him losing third round to Tsitsipas, the real young, promising Greek player. Yeah, I've got him making a nice run here, potentially arriving on the scene, announcing himself. And then, like I said, I have Isner getting through the top half of that section. And then I have Isner winning the fourth round match against Tsitsipas. And then facing Cilic in the quarters. Do have Cilic winning that match, although I know I said that Cilic doesn't have any tests here. I mean, this is a test if it happens, just because Isner's, he's going to hold serve, he's going to force tie breaks. And I think these two actually met a few years ago, and it went 5 here. I think like 18-16 in the fifth for Cilic, so I would expect something like that again. Real close scoreline for sure, but Isner never seems to come out on the right end of those matches. So my faith lies a little more with Cilic, but John with his serve, I mean, he's obviously a threat here. We just have never seen it. But we'll see. I mean, it could definitely happen. But I've got Cilic getting through and getting into the semifinals against Federer, and a rematch of last year's final. This year we'll hopefully see a healthier Cilic than we saw last year. I would expect a closer match than last year's final, but ultimately I would be hard pressed to pick against Federer, given what he's been able to do for so many years. And so I have Federer defeating Cilic in these semis and reaching the final. And so now we'll move into the bottom half of the draw. And obviously this half, the much more open half, I think. The higher seeds, I think, have a much higher chance of going out early. And there's some wild cards that are lurking, I think. And it's going to be very intriguing to see how this plays out. Obviously, Rafael Nadal, the number 2 seed, has not played well here in a number of years. I don't believe he played a grass court warm-up event. And I've got him going out early. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, it's happened, like I said, I think 5 years in a row. He's lost fourth round earlier. I don't see any reason that it won't continue. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna start at the bottom here with him. I really think he's got a lot of guys that can trip him up early in this draw. First round is Sella, and I don't think he'll lose that match. Sella doesn't really have anything that he can hurt him with. But as early as the second round, I mean, Pospisil or Kukushkin, two guys that are, I mean, if you have a big serve and you hit big ground strokes on this surface, Rafa has been very, very vulnerable. We've seen it time and time again recently. So those are both guys that can give him trouble. But ultimately, I have him losing round 3 to Misha Zverev. It's really the perfect setup. Misha won today for his first title. We know how perfect his game is for this surface with the serve and volley, and how much Rafa has struggled to return on this surface. And yeah, like I said, I think it's a perfect setup for Zverev to pull off the upset. Maybe almost too perfect. But the point is still that I don't think Rafa is going to make a deep run here. Just because he's given me no reason to believe that will happen after the way he's performed recently here. But yeah, I actually have Misha making a really nice run here. I have him getting to the quarterfinals. The rest of the section isn't bad. So if Rafa can get out of these first 3 rounds, he could actually make a run. Guys like Schwartzman, Fognini, a bunch of clay quarters in this draw. So really not anyone that's going to hurt him there. But it's these first 3 matches that I think are going to be tricky. And like I said, I've got Zverev getting through and then making the quarters because the draw does open up a little bit. And the other part of this bottom quarter is Del Potro's. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Del Potro's quarter. And I have Del Potro getting through. I like his draw really a lot. He's been really solid this year. He's been trending in the right direction, really, for a while. Yeah, I'll talk about, I guess, some potential matchups for him. Feliciano Lopez actually really, that's not an easy match, round 2. Lopez great on grass. So that's potentially interesting match. And then he has the winner of, well, probably Murray or Shapovalov, round 3. And there's some questions with both those guys. I mean, I like Dennis's game a lot, especially on grass, but he didn't play that well coming in. And he's still young, he's still inconsistent. So I'm very interested to see what he can do this week, but I wouldn't pick him against Del Potro. I do think he'll beat Murray. Murray has not played enough tennis, and that has shown these last couple weeks in his return. But yeah, some dangerous matches potentially, but I think Del Potro is the safe pick there to get through the first few matches. Goffin potentially in round 4. I like his game, but it just doesn't possess the firepower that Del Potro does. And so I've got Del Potro winning that and then beating Zverev and making it into the semis. Where I think that's his best finish ever at Wimbledon was the semis. Let's say he played a really good match against Djokovic a few years ago, but actually I have him getting farther than that. I have him getting to the final, but let's go to the final quarter and talk about that first. Move back up the draw. And this is where it gets really interesting. I think it's wide open here in this section. Zverev is the 4th seed, so he's the projected guy to get through. But I don't think he has a tough draw first few rounds. And we've seen him obviously start to improve his slam pedigree. Had some tough matches in the French that he did win, but it ultimately cost him when he had to face Thiem and had nothing left. So we'll see if he can do a better job of, kind of saving his energy as the tournament progresses. But he's in for a potentially really interesting 4th round match against Nick Kyrgios. I really hope this match happens. I have it in my bracket here. Really fun when these two guys face off. Nick brings his best. And let me talk about Nick for a little bit. I think he's going to have a really good 2 weeks. I always say that with a little bit of caution, but he's been really consistent this year when he's been healthy. He is healthy again. He just came off of 2 nice runs. I think he made the semifinals of the last 2 tournaments he played on grass. And he lost to good opponents. I know Cilic is who he lost to last week in Queens, and Cilic won Queens. So, yeah, like I said, I say this with hesitation, but I think Kyrgios is in for a nice tournament. Potential Nishikori in round 3, but I think he's the far better grass court player there. And then Zverev round 4. And I'm going to give Nick the edge on this surface, but that could be a very, very fun matchup. Nick's one of those guys right now. He's 15th seed. He's definitely lurking as a dark horse here. And speaking of dark horses, Novak Djokovic at 12, obviously, in the top half of this quarter. He has looked a lot better as of late. Made the final in Queens, looked better at the French. The serve has looked better in particular. So, yeah, I think Novak will have another nice week here, or 2 weeks. Really breezing through his draw, which doesn't look too bad. Team is in this section, but I don't think Team is going to have a great tournament. This is his worst surface, and I don't know how much mental energy he has coming off of that, French Open final. I've got him going out early to Khachanov, but yeah, I don't think there's much in Djokovic's path from making the quarters, and potentially setting up a match with Kyrgios. And Kyrgios has really owned that rivalry so far. So that'll be a lot of fun if we get that. And I have Kyrgios progressing, getting through to his first Slam semifinal. It's a lot to ask for Nick if he can win that many 5-set best-of-5 matches, but I think it might be in the cards this week. I think this draw sets up pretty well for him. He's away from Federer and Cilic and all those other really good Raonic, all those other good grass court players. Away from guys like Murray who have troubled him in the past. Yeah, so this is the section that really is the most intriguing. What's going to happen in this whole half, I think. How's it going to play out? But I've got Kyrgios and Del Potro in the semifinals here, and then I got Del Potro winning that match. I think he's a little bit more reliable of a pick here. This is starting to be the point where I think Kyrgios, like I said, how many best-of-5 matches can you win? He hasn't proven it so far in his career, but just making the semifinals would be a nice run for him. But I've got Del Potro winning, and getting back to his first major final since the 2009 U.S. Open would be a great accomplishment for him. I mean, given everything he's had to go through in his comeback, he's slowly progressed up to this point, and I think this might be the time that he can get back to a final. And it would be a really fun final with Federer. Both guys are such popular players. I think it'd be high quality tennis too. Obviously good ball striking on both sides. I've got Federer winning the final. No surprise. Just hard to pick against him, and I haven't seen anything to suggest that he should be picked against. But yeah, that's what I got. I got Roger Federer defeating Juan Martín Del Potro in the final. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this tournament. I love Wimbledon. You always get some epic matches, and so we'll see where they end up happening. I don't know if I'm going to do a women's draw preview. I always fill out a bracket for the men. I don't for the women, so that makes it a little bit more challenging to kind of do these videos. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of my predictions. What do you guys think is going to happen? Which players are you interested in watching? What are you looking forward to, I guess, in general? And also thoughts on the video. So thanks for watching, and I'll probably see you in a few days.